La La Land, 2016 film written and directed by Damien Chazelle, starring Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. It was nominated for an Oscar in 13 categories, one of them twice, winning 6 of them. Best Director, Best Lead Actress for Emma Stone, Best Cinematography, Music, Song, City of Stars, and Production Design. The ones it didn't win were Best Picture, famously losing to Moonlight before being erroneously announced as the winner. Best Lead Actor for Gosling, Best Screenplay, Editing, Costume Design, Sound Mixing, Sound Editing, and a second nomination for another Best Song for The Fools Who Dream. I've just seen the film again at the Krakow Film Music Festival, where the movie was shown with a live orchestra playing the music, with Randy Kerber on the keys and Justin Hurwitz conducting. It was a sensational and a lovely way to refresh my memory of the film and give myself a good reason to finally review it on this channel. Now, I want to share my story of my earlier experience with this film, because as it was coming out originally, I was really torn between really wanting to see the hyped up, highly anticipated movie that was made by Damien Chazelle, whose previous film, Whiplash, was and still is my favorite movie of all time. But on the other hand, it was a musical, and at that time, I hated musicals. I couldn't engage with them because all the singing and dancing would just take me out of the movie. My brain somehow couldn't stay in the story when suddenly there's a very theatrical fake dance number. I ended up going to see it with my girlfriend at the time, who convinced me, and when the credits rolled, she stood up ready to go and sort of looked at me, and I sort of just had to wave at her that I needed a minute to collect myself because I was just such an emotional mess. I wasn't even able to talk. The movie just won me over completely, and especially that ending reduced me to a tearful mess. I ended up seeing it twice more in theaters during the original run, once more the following summer when it was re-released, and then a couple more times at home in the years to follow. And I think to this day there isn't a movie that I've seen this much in theaters, and the reasons are several. I mean, obviously, I think it's excellent and should have won the Best Picture award that year, but to be more specific, I think one of the main things it did for me was, which also kind of then unlocked the rest of the musical genre later on, is that it didn't have the fully theatrical song numbers with trained vocalists and trained dancers, but relied on Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling just sort of doing their best, which I know actual fans of actual musicals criticized, but for me it managed to create a connection, a bridge between the real world and the non-singing parts of the story, and then the more fantasized singing. I also think that the movie uses songs in an extremely clever way, where they're much more present and exuberant in the first half of the film, where the fantasy elements tie into the sort of young love, early romance part of the story. Whereas in the second half, the reality of the relationship and adult life catches up to the characters and their dreams, and the film itself becomes more grounded and more muted. And so does the music. There's less songs, and the ones that are there are much more grounded. Speaking about the tone shift, I think it is rare to find a movie where everything about production design, the music, the costumes, the color palette, the lighting, works so well together to influence and create that atmosphere. Because in the first half, everything pops out of the screen with reds and yellows and a lot of sun, and in the second half, greens and blues start creeping in. More scenes take place during the evening or at night. The life gets slowly washed away from the movie, but crucially, it doesn't become uglier as a result. I mean, compare this to the Harry Potter series, which where the latter parts also become more washed out and mature in terms of the color palette. But in those movies, they just sort of become grey and dull and boring looking. Whereas La La Land continues to be incredibly visually pleasing. It's just in a different way. In general, whilst watching this film now, I would continuously think to myself, this is such a beautiful frame, or this is such a beautiful image. It is a fantastically crafted picture, which really falls into that category of movies where every frame is a painting. Aside from that, the music is great. I think Hurwitz is really good at doing something that Hollywood films used to do in the past and then sort of forgot about in the recent decades, which is to use themes and leitmotifs. Meaning, it has certain little melodies that repeat in different contexts, different arrangements throughout the film, but you begin to associate them with specific moments or specific characters. And after a couple of times, whenever you hear those notes, whenever you hear the leitmotif playing, your brain instantly knows, okay, who this scene is going to be about. It's such a simple way to direct your attention, emotionally speaking, and I feel it has been neglected by modern film composers. And if you want to see another fantastic example of the usage of leitmotifs, check out Babylon, which was also made by Damien Chazelle and also scored by Hurwitz. I think he perfects that there. But going back to La La Land, costumes are unbelievably good. So is the lighting, so is the camera work, editing. I love the two central performances. Both Gosling and Stone are infinitely charismatic, and we knew from Crazy Stupid Love that they have sensational chemistry together, which is repeated here. I love the themes of the story, the conflict between dreams of these two young people in LA trying to make something of themselves and have their ambitions to sort of become something more. The conflict between all of that and the blossoming relationship and love between them. This is something that speaks to me on a very deep level. I love the humor in the film too, and the subtle attention to detail, such as the bar stool from one of the early scenes showing up again in the epilogue as a sort of background element. And of course, the epilogue itself is just a masterful sequence in itself. I love it to bits, and even after all these years and all these times I've seen it, I still struggle not to cry at it. It is, for me, the rare 10 out of 10 perfect movie, because it meets all three of my sort of defined criteria. It has to be a film that is technically excellent and put together in ways which are genuinely impressive. It is. It has to connect with me on a personal level. I have to enjoy something about it. I do. And finally, there has to be literally nothing that I can think about that I would change to improve the film. No scene that I would change in any way. And La La Land is that for me. It does all these things and more. And I will forever have a soft spot for this beautiful piece of art.